A problem many creative professionals share is where to begin and where to end. How to constrain your creativity. You have to decide what you care about most. What inspires and motivates you? What are your whys? I think it's important to do this every so often, especially when you've undergone kind of like a major life change. But make a list of your keywords. Try to distill them down to as few as possible. Where there's overlap, find one word to describe 2 or 3. Try to be really honest with yourself. As you do this, try to boil it down to maybe 10 or 12 words or less. For example, I have a value for authenticity, for relationships, and for what motivates people. Those valuables become actionable for me through documentary storytelling. So, step 1, define your value set. As your values start to become actionable for projects, you'll need to narrow them down just as you did with your value set. I find it useful to run ideas through what I call the conceptual funnel, starting wide open at the top in kind of an exploration phase, and narrowing those ideas down through the funnel, ultimately to the point of execution. So start big at exploration, let your sort of openness take over and process a lot of ideas, research, begin narrowing your focus, ultimately to that point of execution. So I might have 10 ideas for a film, but I have to start somewhere. So I go back to my value set and determine what's really motivating me, what's maybe motivating a character, and narrow it down to the ultimate point of execution and action. Number 3, budgets and time constraints are probably some of the most common versions of creative constraints, but those two things are often imposed by something external like a client. And I think it's super empowering to self-impose limitations on our creativity, because when we're the ones authoring our own destiny, it's extremely empowering. And I think you also have a higher degree of ownership when you ultimately get to the point of moving towards a project. So what do I mean by that? On top of budget or time, there's things like following a really tight theme. So you could come up with a set of values for a particular project, and those keywords will kind of carry you through the whole trajectory of the film. Doing things in a limited run or a series is also a really good way of constraining your creativity. Constraining your medium, the materials you're using for a particular project, whether that's limiting the colors of paint that you're going to use on your painting, limiting the amount of subjects in a photograph, limiting the types of material you're going to use on a construction project. Pouring more of your creativity into fewer options will ultimately result in a more refined and excellent outcome. Number 4, consider the gig triangle. So there's a lot of different versions of this, and this is just a template. It's none of these are to be considered rules, but just governing principles. So I have this friend, Giovanni Mosibob. He's an actor. I was working with him on a film over the course of several months, and we were between sets one day in Thailand, and we were discussing this gig triangle thing and, you know, making decisions about future projects that we wanted to work on. And he really had a good, clear version of the gig triangle, which was ultimately, number one, the working relationships on a given project. Number two, the sort of value and interest in the project itself. And number three, the compensation associated with that project. So ultimately, what you're getting or what you're not getting paid to do a particular project. And when those three things overlap, you have the makings of a great project. And Giovanni's perception of the gig triangle was, if you don't have at least two of those three things working on a project, it's not worth doing. So for example, you might have great relationships or, you know, potential to build great relationships in a particular industry on a project, and it might pay really well, but the project itself is not that interesting. But still, two of the three in the gig triangle working, so it's worth doing. You might be getting paid really well, the project might be really great, but the people on it aren't. Still worth it. But if you get it down to it, it's just the money, or it's just the project, or it's even just, hey, I got great friends working on this project, especially over the long haul and a longer project like a feature film, 1 out of 3 is not enough. When you're starting out, you got to make sacrifices. You might just do it for the money, you might just do it for the relationships, but once you start sort of building momentum in your career, it starts to become less and less worthwhile to do 1 or even 2 out of 3. Number 5 and number 6 are sort of correlated. Number 5, I would say something like irons in the fire. So you've done the work of boiling down your value set, you know, what kind of project you want to do, how you're going to execute it. You've imposed some constraints on the project so that you can put the maximum creativity in the minimal amount of options so you can come up with something really great. What happens when something slows the project down and maybe partners bail out, or the money dries up, or you're forced to have a waiting period of some kind? You've got to have something else going on. So for me, I like to have 2 or 3 projects happening at any one time. I've often got the problem where I've got 6 or 7, and that usually means I need to cut some stuff down, trim the fat. But for me, you know, it's 2 or 3. That keeps me thinking pretty clearly, but it also gives me places to pivot when work dries up in one area. I can aim at another. It's also useful to have multiple irons in the fire when you ultimately sort of run out of inspiration on a project. And this kind of connects to number 6, which is rest. So rest can be literally the need for sleep or a break or vacation, but it can also be exercise, or it could also be, you know, doing something completely different from the big project that you've been pouring so much focus into. I like to think about rest like a bow and arrow. You don't stow, you know, a bow and arrow long term, always under tension. You take the string off the bow. It gives the wood rest, and it maintains the optimal strength for shooting power. So whatever it looks like to unstring your bow once in a while, you know, for me, that's aiming my energy from the project I'm aiming at that I might have the most value for, but for whatever reason, I'm running out of steam on it. those are good opportunities to pivot to a personal project or a side project. It might be something you do on your property or something you can do to help a friend, or it might just be taking a break. But figure out what rest looks like so that you can re-stimulate, re-energize, get a fresh perspective, and go back to what you were doing before. Ultimately, how this all looks for each creative professional is going to be a little bit different as you start to put it into practice. But I just wanted to share some of the things that work for me when I'm going a little off course and I need to put a little force on the rudder. These 5 or 6 things I just laid out are great things for me to come back to.